Mari Musa, and I'm from the Socialist Workers' Party. Now, my name is Nyakala Goke Africanism Forum, and in 2007, we decided to launch a Pan-African Forum, because we believe in internationalism and we believe in Pan-Africanism. And then we've been organizing those conferences, and then to bring Africans and African-American and then like-minded people so that we can talk about, a better Africa and a better world. Now, as we were doing that, we needed to expand, our network. We needed to network with like-minded organizations. And then since 2011, there are some organizations that have been really, really supporting us in this struggle. The first one is Answer Coalition. When we need them, they are there. They organize rallies. They invite us, and then so anytime we want to do this conference, we need to have always one person who represented the Answer Coalition organization, and then the leader of Answer Coalition and also the Party for Socialism and Liberalism is socialism and what? Liberalism, right? Yeah, liberation. Yes. Brand Becker. And today, Nadia is here, to speak on behalf of an organization. So let's give a round of applause to Answer Coalition and to Nadia. The second one is that I'm going to skip. The second one is the Socialist Workers' Party. So I've been looking for, for strong organization, and then somehow, with Omari Musa and James Harris, we could connect. And then since last year, or maybe for the last couple of years, we've been partnering and organizing things together. And because of the strong base and because of the commitment, even when Africans do not show up, we know that people from the Social Workers' Party or Answer Coalition are going to show up. So thank you, Omari Musa and James, for the wonderful work you're doing for the cause of Africa, the cause of the global African community, and the cause of revolution in the world. Round of applause to the Social Workers' Party. Okay, now, there is one of my friends, her name is Mjiba Freywot. She's Black American, and she's committed, she's strong, she's powerful. We did our PhD together, and she got a job. Now she's in Ghana. And this is what she wanted to do. She's so happy to be there. But I wanted to pay her tribute because since we connected a group, the All African Revolution People Party, she's been doing a wonderful job. And then I told her last time, Mjiba, you're not here, so it is more complicated for us. And then, but from Ghana, she is still mobilizing and calling people to come to support, this cause. This is what you call a person that is truly committed to the cause of justice and freedom. So let's give a round of applause to All African Revolution People's Party. We have another gentleman. His name is Maurice Carnet, representative of the Friends of the Congo. And he's one of the few Jamaicans who speak French. And so when I saw him, I said, Maurice, you're the first Jamaican who speaks French. But the gentleman is so committed, so strong, and so serious that even if Maurice has to be somewhere, we've been doing this with Maurice Carnet. I would like us to give a round of applause to Maurice Carnet and to the Friends of the Congo. And then my friend and brother Netfa from the Institute for Policy Studies. Even if he's dealing with several things, Netfa has been there, giving us the opportunity to speak, give us the opportunity to promote, and then I would like us to give a round of applause to Netfa Freeman and on behalf of the Institute for Policy Studies. This year, we connected with Aburwa. Aburwa is the community of the Burkinabe people in the Washington, D.C. area. And the president is here, Mathieu Sawadogo, and who helped us prepare this conference. And thanks to him, we have some faces from the Burkinabe community we never saw. Thanks to Mathieu and thanks to Aburwa. Let's give a round of applause to Mathieu Aburwa. Now, there are certainly some organizations that I forgot, but we decided to celebrate Thomas Sankara every year. And now the speakers will certainly tell you why it is important for us to celebrate Thomas Sankara. But when I came here to this country for school, I did not know that one day I was going to see Thomas Sankara's family. I was young when the gentleman was killed. All of us, we were mourning him in Africa. We were crying because we knew that we lost a true son of Africa, somebody who was sincerely committed to the cause of justice and freedom. And then because the great architect allowed it, I came here and I saw the Sankara family. And then the one I call the godfather, Pascal Sankara, and later on Paul Sankara, and then Blandine Sankara, who is in Burkina, and Lydie Sankara and Pauline Sankara, and the children of Thomas Sankara. We've been doing this even before we started to do a conference on Sankara. The family, particularly Pascal, has been supporting this institution and this activity, and I would like us, to give a round of applause to the Sankara family here. Ba Boubacar is the representative of Ballet Citoyen in New York. He came with one of his friends, and I'm happy because anytime we do something, Ba Boubacar always shows up, committed. He's a true soldier for the cause of justice and freedom. I would like us to give a round of applause to Ba Boubacar. Now, we're going to start the conversation in a few, and we are excited. We believe that there is a new energy because we've been meeting new people, and for this particular conference, beside the people I've mentioned, there is a group of friends in Canada, and then one of the ladies who supported us and who did the audio segment, her name is Queen Ka, and then she's Kemit, and for the community of Kemit who support our struggle, and particularly for Queen Ka, I would like us to give a round of applause to Queen Ka for what she's doing for us and for the organization. Now, we're going to start, and then Bill Fletcher he has a very important commitment after this conference. So we will certainly start with Bill Fletcher. He speaks after him, Nadia, and then Omari Musa, and then we're going to finish with Ernest, who is coming from New York. So, Bill, thank you very much.
When Dr. Lugoke calls, I respond. I've been trained appropriately. So it's just great. At an event like this, we can expect that we will speak in praise of Thomas Sankara. We will talk about his contributions. I wanted to start with this question of the role of heroes. When we're talking about heroes, we're talking about people who both shape and are Martin Luther King. He went to Montgomery in 1955, essentially planning on being a minister and not really engaging in anything. And the circumstances of the events of the Montgomery bus boycott and his being situated as new to the city, not being connected with any of the particular factions or groups, positioned him to play a particular role. Now, certainly if he had been incompetent, if he had been an idiot, it wouldn't have mattered. He wouldn't have been able to rise to the occasion. So you have this combination of someone's brilliance, the eloquence that he had, as well as the moment. That is, the right place, the right time, and then speaking for a movement, but then being driven forward by the movement. And certainly we can see over and over again leaders who move forward not simply because of their creative ideas, but the force of the movement itself, posing questions, posing challenges that they have to grapple with, pushing them further than that they might have expected to be. So Sankara was there at the right moment. He was there at the right moment, but he challenged or channeled a mass anti-imperialism and instilled confidence among his supporters and among the population of Burkina Faso. He was obviously quite brilliant. But when we're looking at heroes, we have to understand that heroes are human beings, that there are no heroes that are perfect. And if we fail to come to grips with the actuality of our heroes being human beings, we make some very, very big mistakes. This is something that we saw a few years ago in a lot of the debate around Malcolm X, that the issue of what mistakes, what differences one could have. Was a particular hero always on a linear path, a trajectory? Or did that person zigzag? Did they have doubts? Did they have questions? Did they back away? This is one of the things that we have to grapple with when we're trying to come to grips with our heroes. When we're speaking of revolutionary heroes, we must speak about the necessity to institutionalize revolutionary practice. And here I stumbled across something in the writings of Thomas Sankara. It was actually an interview that was in this fantastic collection, Thomas Sankara Speaks, that showed you this contradiction. And I just want to take a moment to read it and its significance. He was talking about the issue. He's being asked this question about whether or not the revolution of Burkina Faso needs to create a party. And he says, you cannot create a party with the will of leaders alone. This opens the door to all kinds of opportunism. A party has to have structures, leaderships, and representatives. Who would do this other than those who are there already and who are not necessarily the most combative? All kinds of people would swear by this party in order to be sure of a post, a little bit the way the carving up of government ministries is viewed. Certain people would suggest we divide it this way so that they too can have a post. We must at all costs avoid the opportunist temptation to create a made-to-measure party. The creation of a party after the seizure of power is a truly tricky undertaking. He goes on to say, there's also a disadvantage to parties. They become too restrictive, overly selective in relation to the masses who are mobilized. From the moment you begin to base yourself on a mere minority, the masses become disconnected from the struggle you are waging. The party is therefore required to play the role of leader, guide, and vanguard capable of leading the whole revolution, to be a completely integral part of the masses, and for that, those who are members must be the most serious ones who are moving forward and who are succeeding in firmly convincing others by their own concrete example. But first, the masses must be allowed to struggle without a party and fashion their weapons without a party. Otherwise, you fall into using a nomenclatura, the term for the Soviet bureaucracy. In that paragraph, you see the contradiction that Sankara found himself in. He was actually grappling with what's come to be known as the crisis of socialism, the crisis of the national populist projects, where you have this idea of a vanguard, predetermined party that is supposedly speaking for and leading the masses. Sankara is pointing out that this predetermined, rigid party is insufficient for the task. At the same time, he then says, but maybe there doesn't need to be a party, at least in the beginning. Well, this becomes a particular problem. This becomes a problem because in the absence of some sort of political instrument, what is the institutional mechanism to advance the revolutionary process? There isn't one, right? Even though in Burkina Faso there was something called the Committees for the Defense of the Revolution, that's different from a political party. In the absence of some sort of instrument for political action, you then overly rely on an individual or a set of individuals. And this runs us into a very major problem. And that major problem is that humans are mortal. And that one of the biggest mistakes that political leaders make is the failure to remind themselves time and again of their own mortality. There is frequently an assumption, even when the rhetoric is one that says we might get taken out, right? We may be killed. But there is, in the back of the minds of too many leaders, the assumption that they will have sufficient time to carry through and lead the process. And the problem is, what if you don't? What if you don't? And in the absence of an instrument of political action, that ends up meaning that the movement itself can be terminated. You know, it's one thing, to have the slogan that you cannot kill the revolution. That's actually not true. Ask the people of Indonesia in 1965, right? You can kill a revolution. You can carry out, the other side can carry out mass atrocities. In the case of Burkina Faso, the revolution was killed in 1987. Now, it's true that there was an insurrection last year, but in the immediate sense, for nearly 20 years, in effect, the revolution was killed. There was the absence of an instrument to continue to prosecute the struggle that Sankara was leading. And while it was true that upon his assassination, there was great grieving, there was not an upsurge to overthrow the counter-revolutionaries who had killed him. This issue of the instrument of organization, instrument of politics, is one that we cannot avoid dealing with. That when we worship individuals, when we put them too far above us as human beings, we're making that fatal mistake. We're forgetting this issue of mortality. We're also forgetting that individuals can make mistakes. That there are no individuals, there are no human beings that cannot make mistakes. And therefore, the issue of the instrument of politics becomes important in checking people, in reminding people that maybe there's a different way of looking at something. And so we have this situation that we have to, when we look at Burkina Faso and we look at the legacy of Thomas Sankara, we have these two things that we have to look at. On the one hand, immense courage, Black internationalism, Pan-Africanism, the attempt to move an anti-imperialist project within Burkina Faso, sweeping aside the reactionary institutions and politics of the time. I stumbled across an article here where he's talking about the issue of the environment. And now, this may right now not seem particularly radical, but when you think in the 1980s of how many leftists essentially dismissed the issue of the environment. And right there, he's talking about the importance of the environment as part of our revolutionary task. I mean, there were these amazing contributions. Yet, in failing to create some sort of instrument to outlast himself, it was an unfortunate mistake. And it's one that we who are trying to learn from that legacy and to uphold everything that was good about Sankara must never forget that there is no one individual that puts it all together. It only is done, it is only successful when we build organizations, instruments of politics that are self-critical, that are humble, that are constantly learning mechanisms, that translate the legacy from one generation to another and do not get stuck and do not ever think that there's a short distance between God's mouth and their ear. Thank you very much.